Welcome, dear friends. Today's podcast is part of a new series based on the spiritual classic, Divine Intimacy, Meditations on the Interior Life for Every Day of the Liturgical Year by Father Gabriel of St. Mary Magdalene, OCD. Throughout this series, we will explore profound reflections on the interior life, guided by the wisdom of Carmelite spirituality. Inspired by the teachings of Saints Teresa of Jesus, John of the Cross, and other great mystics, divine intimacy leads us toward deeper prayer, greater virtue, and union with God. For more Carmelite resources, visit the General Curia of the Teresian Carmel at discalcedcarmelite.com. Now let us begin our journey into Father Gabriel's profound spiritual insights.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. Today we're going to be taking a deep dive into something that's pretty fundamental to the Christian life, and that's love.
Yeah.
But not just love as a feeling,
Right.
or even as just, actions.
Right.
We're talking about love as the very essence of what it means to be a Christian.
It's fascinating because most of us grew up hearing phrases like, God is loving, but Father Gabriel in Divine Intimacy really challenges us to go deeper.
Mm-hmm.
He says that love isn't just something that God has, it's what God is.
Okay, so let's unpack that a little bit.
Yeah.
What's the distinction there, and why does it matter so much?
Well, think of it this way.
Okay.
Saying that water has wetness is different from saying that water is wetness.
Right.
Wetness is inseparable from the very nature of water.
Okay.
And Father Gabriel points to the scripture, 1 John 4.16, where it says God is love.
Right.
It's not an attribute like being strong or wise.
Yeah.
It's the very core of God's being.
So instead of trying to, achieve love, we're actually trying to tap into this source of love that already exists infinitely within God.
That's a really good way of putting it.
That's a pretty radical shift in perspective for me.
It really is. And, for those of us on a Carmelite path, this resonates really deeply because it means the goal isn't just, checking off good deeds,
Yeah.
but aligning ourselves with this love so completely that it changes everything about how we see the world and how we live in it.
Now, you mentioned the Trinity earlier.
Mm-hmm.
How does this idea of love as God's essence play out in the relationship between the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit?
That's where things get really interesting. The Trinity is often described as this perfect, self-contained love, a communion of persons, so united that they are one God.
Yeah.
And it's from this overflowing love within the Trinity that creation itself springs forth.
So we're not just talking about an abstract concept here. This love has real implications for how we understand God's relationship with us
Absolutely.
and our purpose in the grand scheme of things.
Exactly. And that brings us to this idea of imitating divine love.
Okay.
It's not enough to just acknowledge that God is love.
Right.
We're called to become reflections of that love in the world.
Right. We're getting to Matthew 5.48 territory here,
Yes.
where Jesus says, "Be perfect as your heavenly Father is perfect."
Yeah.
But how can we, with all of our human flaws and limitations, even begin to imitate that kind of perfect love?
That's the challenge, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
And Father Gabriel doesn't shy away from the difficulty. He points out that human love is often very conditional.
Yeah.
It's messy and even selfish at times.
Yeah, for sure.
And it pales in comparison to the supernatural love that God calls us to.
So what's the difference? What makes divine love so unique?
One key aspect is benevolence.
Benevolence.
Now, that's a word we don't use every day, but it gets at something essential.
Okay.
Divine love isn't just about warm feelings. It's about actively willing the good of the other, even when it's difficult, even when we don't feel loving.
Wow. So it's about aligning our will with God's will.
Absolutely.
Which is always for our good
Yes.
and the good of others,
That's right.
even when we don't understand it.
Exactly. And this alignment isn't passive.
Okay.
It's an active choice that we make moment by moment.
Okay.
Imagine a sunflower constantly turning its face towards the sun, seeking out its warmth and light. That's the kind of active orientation that we're called to have towards divine love.
But isn't there a danger in pushing that analogy too far? I mean, sunflowers don't have free will.
Okay.
We do.
That's true.
We can choose to turn away from God even when we know it's not in our best interest.
You're absolutely right. And that's where the real drama of the spiritual life unfolds, isn't it?
Right.
We have this incredible capacity for love, but also the freedom to reject it. And that's where Father Gabriel emphasizes the critical role of charity.
Okay, so we're not just talking about love as a feeling.
Right.
Love in action.
Yes.
What we traditionally call charity.
Right. Exactly. And he makes it very clear, charity isn't just a suggestion.
Nah.
It's essential for spiritual life.
Wow.
He quotes 1 John 3:14.
Okay.
He that loveth not abideth in death.
That's pretty intense.
It is.
It frames charity as like a matter of spiritual life or death.
Yeah, it's not about fear of punishment, though.
Okay.
Think of it this way. Imagine a branch cut off from the vine.
Okay.
It can't bear fruit. It withers and dies.
Hmm.
Without charity, without love, we're cut off from the source of true life,
Yeah.
which is God himself.
So charity is like the heartbeat of a vibrant spiritual life.
Yes.
Not just another rule to follow.
Right.
It's what connects us to the source of our being.
Exactly. And that brings us back to this idea of love as the essence, not just an attribute.
Right.
It's the foundation upon which everything else is built.
Yeah.
Our actions, our prayers, our relationships, they all flow from this wellspring of love.
That's a powerful image.
Yeah.
It makes me think about how we often compartmentalize our faith, focusing on specific actions or devotions rather than seeing them all as expressions of this one unifying love.
And that's where I find Father Gabriel's insights so helpful. He challenges us to look beyond the individual pieces of the puzzle and see the bigger picture.
Right.
That love is the force that animates and gives meaning to everything.
It's like we're finally understanding that love isn't just one piece of the puzzle, it is the entire picture.
That's it.
It changes how we see everything.
Exactly. And, it's interesting how he connects us back to Jesus' teaching about the greatest commandment.
You mean loving God with all our heart, soul, and mind?
That's the one.
I always thought of that as just, a rule to follow.
Sure.
Like, okay, got to do that.
But it's so much deeper than that. It's not just about obedience. It's about union.
Okay.
When love dominates, our actions flow naturally from that union with God.
Mm.
We live for his glory, not our own.
So instead of struggling to do the right thing, it becomes about aligning ourselves with God's love so completely that right action just flows naturally.
That's the idea. Think of it like a river flowing effortlessly downhill.
Yeah.
That's the power of love guiding our choices.
That's such a vivid image. So we're talking about a level of surrender to God's love.
Yes.
That allows us to truly live for his glory.
Precisely. And that's where we'll pick up in the next part of our deep dive, exploring how this surrender plays out in our lives, especially through the example of a saint who embodied it so powerfully. Saint Teresa of Jesus. As we delve deeper into this idea of love as the essence of the Christian life, I keep coming back to the transformative power of surrender.
It's interesting that you say that because I was just thinking about Saint Teresa of Jesus.
Oh, yeah.
Talk about someone who understood surrender.
Absolutely.
Her prayer, I will not be a saint by halves.
Yeah.
It just radiates this fierce determination to give her whole self over to God.
Absolutely. And Father Gabriel highlights Saint Teresa's boldness in offering her entire will to God, holding nothing back. He connects this to the essential work of removing obstacles to love. Pride, selfishness, anything that stands between us and complete union with God.
So we can't just sit back and passively wait for love to happen.
Right.
It takes effort.
Yes.
A willingness to confront those parts of ourselves that resist surrender.
Absolutely.
It's like clearing a path for divine love to work in us, right?
Precisely. And this is where the Carmelite tradition offers such valuable insights.
Okay.
It emphasizes the interior life,
Yeah.
the ongoing process of purification and transformation
Right.
that allows God's love to take root and flourish within us.
But how do we actually do that? What does it look like to clear a path for love in our daily lives? It feels so abstract sometimes.
Yeah, that's where the rubber meets the road, isn't it?
Right.
Father Gabriel reminds us that charity, this divine love in action,
Right.
it isn't just some lofty ideal.
Yeah.
It's meant to permeate every aspect of our lives.
So it's not enough to just think about love. We have to actually live it out.
Exactly. Think of it like this.
Okay.
You can admire a beautiful piece of music, but to truly experience its power, you have to play it. Let the notes flow through you.
Right.
It's the same with charity. We have to let it become the driving force behind all our actions.
Okay. I'm following you.
Yeah.
But let's be honest. Most of us struggle to love perfectly all the time.
For sure.
We get tired,
Right.
frustrated,
Yes.
impatient.
Yeah.
How do we bridge the gap between this ideal of divine love and the reality of our human weakness?
Well, that's the beauty of God's grace.
Okay,
We don't
yeah.
have to manufacture this love on our own. We're given everything we need to grow in love through the sacraments, prayer, and the support of the church community.
It's like we're given a map and all the necessary equipment for this journey.
Yeah,
But we still have to choose to take those steps, right?
absolutely. And it's in those choices, those daily acts of surrender, that we allow God's grace to transform us. It's not about becoming superhumanly good overnight.
Right.
It's about making those small, consistent choices to align our will with God's, even when it's hard.
So it's a process, a lifelong journey of conversion.
Exactly. And Father Gabriel reminds us that even the saints struggled with this.
Wow.
They weren't perfect from the start.
Right.
They faced temptations,
Yeah.
experienced dryness in prayer, and had to constantly choose love over selfishness. But they persevered, trusting in God's grace to work in them.
It's encouraging to remember that, isn't it?
Which is.
That we're not alone in this struggle.
Right.
And that even the greatest saints had to wrestle with their own imperfections.
It's a very human struggle, and it makes me think about something Saint Teresa of Avila wrote.
Oh.
The important thing is not to think much, but to love much. And so do that which best stirs you to love.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
It reminds us that love isn't just about intellectual understanding.
Yeah.
It's about action.
Absolutely.
About letting our love for God overflow into concrete expressions of service and devotion.
And it's interesting how Father Gabriel ties this back to the idea of living for God's glory. He says that when our love for God is perfect, it naturally directs all our activity towards Him.
It's like everything we do becomes an offering,
Yes.
an act of worship.
Precisely. Not in a showy or self-congratulatory way,
Right.
but in a spirit of humility and gratitude.
Yeah.
Recognizing that everything we have and everything we are is a gift from God.
That's a beautiful way to look at it.
Yeah.
But it also makes me think about the times when my motivations aren't so pure.
Sure.
When I catch myself doing things for recognition or out of a sense of obligation rather than pure love.
Yeah, we've all been there. And that's where honest self-reflection and the sacrament of reconciliation becomes so essential. They help us identify those areas where our love falls short and give us the grace to start fresh.
It's like we're constantly being invited to examine our hearts,
Yeah.
to see where we're holding back,
Right.
and to surrender those areas to God's transforming love.
Exactly. And that surrender, that willingness to let go of our ego-driven desires and align ourselves with God's will is where true freedom and joy are found.
Because it's in letting go of our own limited perspective and embracing God's infinite love that we discover our true purpose and fulfillment right.
That's the paradox, isn't it?
Yeah.
We find ourselves by losing ourselves in God's love.
It makes me think of that beautiful image that Saint Teresa uses to describe God's love, an ocean.
Oh, yeah.
In which we, like little fishes, live and swim. We're completely enveloped in that vastness, held and sustained by His grace, even when we don't feel it.
It's such a comforting thought, isn't it?
It really is.
To know that we're never alone, that we're always swimming in an ocean of God's love, even when we feel lost or afraid.
Absolutely. And it reminds us that love isn't just something we strive for.
Yeah.
It's the very environment we live in,
Yes.
the air we breathe.
It is.
And as we breathe in that love, we're transformed,
Yeah.
little by little, into the image of the one who loves us most perfectly.
So it's not about trying to earn God's love, but about allowing ourselves to be loved and to be transformed by that love.
Exactly. And that's a process that continues throughout our lives as we deepen our relationship with God and allow His love to work its wonders in our souls.
That's beautifully said.
That's a beautiful way to put it. But before we get too carried away by the beauty of it all, I think it's important to acknowledge that this journey of love isn't always easy.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, Father Gabriel is very clear about that.
Right.
He doesn't shy away from the difficulties and challenges inherent in striving for Christian perfection.
So what are some of those challenges? And how can we navigate them in a way that doesn't discourage us or make us feel like failures?
Yeah, it's interesting that you bring up the challenges because, when we talk about love as this beautiful transformative force, it's easy to forget that it often comes at a cost.
That's true. Father Gabriel doesn't sugarcoat things. He reminds us that the path of love, the path of Christian perfection,
Right.
is marked by sacrifice.
And not just any kind of sacrifice.
Right.
We're not talking about giving up chocolate for Lent.
We're talking about surrendering our will, our desires,
Yeah.
even our very selves, over to God.
Exactly. And that can be incredibly difficult, especially in a culture that prizes self-fulfillment and instant gratification.
Right.
We're constantly bombarded with messages telling us to put ourselves first, to pursue our own happiness above all else.
So how do we reconcile that with this call to radical self-giving, to putting God's will above our own? How do we live in the world without becoming consumed by its values?
It's a constant balancing act, isn't it?
It is.
And I think that's where discernment comes in.
Okay.
We need to learn to distinguish between those desires that lead us closer to God and those that lead us away.
That makes me think about all the things that we cling to: comfort, security, approval.
Yes.
Even good things can become obstacles if they prevent us from fully surrendering to God's love.
Absolutely. And that's where the practice of detachment comes in.
Gotcha.
It's not about denying the goodness of creation or becoming emotionless robots.
Right.
It's about loosening our grip on those things that we've made into idols so that we can hold on to God with both hands.
So it's about reordering our priorities, putting God at the center, and letting everything else fall into place around him.
Precisely. And that reordering is a lifelong process.
Yeah.
It's not something we achieve once and for all. It's an ongoing journey of surrendering, letting go, and allowing God's love to shape us more and more into his image.
It's a bit daunting, isn't it?
It is.
To think that this journey never really ends, that we're constantly being called to grow and stretch and become more than we are.
It can feel daunting, but it's also incredibly exciting.
Okay.
Because it means that there's always more to discover, more to experience of God's infinite love.
I appreciate that perspective.
Yeah.
It's so easy to get bogged down in the struggle,
Right?
to focus on our imperfections and shortcomings.
Yes.
But you're right, there's a joy in this journey, a sense of adventure that comes from knowing that we're not walking this path alone.
And that's where the beauty of the Carmelite tradition really shines. It's a tradition that emphasizes community support and accompaniment on this journey. We have the saints, the wisdom of the church, and most importantly, the grace of God to help us every step of the way.
So it's not about trying to be a spiritual superhero, going it alone and trying to achieve perfection through our own efforts.
Not at all. It's about recognizing our need for God, for each other, and for the support of those who have walked this path before us. It's about humility, about acknowledging that we can't do this on our own.
It's a beautiful reminder, isn't it? That in our weakness, God's strength is made perfect. That it's in those moments when we surrender our need to control, when we admit our need for help, that God's grace can truly flow through us.
And that reminds me of something that Father Gabriel emphasizes, the inseparable connection between love and suffering. He reminds us that Christ himself embraced suffering out of love for us, and that we too are called to participate in that redemptive suffering.
So when we encounter challenges and difficulties in our own lives, we can unite them with Christ's suffering.
Yeah. And offer them up as a prayer, as an act of love for God and for others.
Exactly. It's not about seeking out suffering or wallowing in self-pity. It's about recognizing that suffering is an inevitable part of life in a fallen world, and that we can choose to transform it by uniting it with Christ's love.
That's a powerful reminder, especially for those of us who are going through difficult times. It helps us see suffering not as something to be avoided at all costs, but as an opportunity for growth, for deeper union with God.
And that brings us back to the essence of what we've been talking about. Love is the defining characteristic of the Christian life. It's a love that's willing to suffer, to sacrifice, to give everything for the good of the beloved.
So it's not just about warm feelings or sentimental gestures.
No.
It's about a radical commitment to putting God's will above our own, even when it's hard, even when it hurts.
Yes, even then. Because it's in those moments of surrender and those acts of self-giving love that we most fully reflect the image of God, who is love itself.
It's a challenging message, but also a deeply hopeful one.
It reminds us that we're not called to be perfect in our own strength, but to rely on God's grace to transform us from the inside out.
And as we allow that transformation to take place, we become living reflections of God's love, radiating his light and warmth into a world that so desperately needs it.
It's a beautiful vision, isn't it?
It is.
To think that we, in our flawed and fragile humanity, can become instruments of God's love in the world.
It is, and it's a vision that's within reach for each of us, no matter where we are on our spiritual journey. All it takes is a willingness to open our hearts to God's love and allow him to work his wonders in us.
So, dear listener, as we wrap up this deep dive into the essence of love, we invite you to reflect on what we've discussed today. Go back to those passages from Scripture, ponder the wisdom of Father Gabriel and Saint Teresa, and most importantly, spend some time in prayer, asking God to reveal his love to you in new and profound ways.
And remember, you are not alone on this journey. You are surrounded by a cloud of witnesses, by a community of believers who are all striving to live out this call to love. Lean on them, support them, and encourage each other along the way.
Because in the end, it's all about love. It's the beginning, the middle, and the end. It's the very air we breathe, the lifeblood that flows through our veins. And when we allow it to take root in our hearts and guide our actions, it has the power to change everything.
Thank you for spending this time with us today, reflecting on the wisdom of the Carmelite saints. I hope these words have inspired and uplifted you. Until next time, may God bless us and keep us close to his heart. Take care and see you soon.